Welcome to part 2 of the story of Narzissenkreuz. If you haven't yet seen part 1, the link is in the description. Our story continues after the daring attempt to save young Jacob's life in Sumeru that has led him down a path to assimilation by the abyss. Back in Fontaine, Alain was enrolled in the prestigious Institute of Natural Philosophy. His field of study was all manner of ancient technology to solve Fontaine's energy issues. His assigned research assistant, Carter Scherbius, was eager, if less talented than the intimidatingly gifted young Alain. But a hidden illness would eventually become a massive turning point in the lives of the 4 children. Upon their return to Fontaine, Renee and Jacob reunited with Alain and Marianne as good old friends. At Alain's suggestion, Dwight Lasker, the director of the Research Institute, enrolled Renee and Jacob as well, knowing within himself that brilliant minds like theirs were in short supply after all the lives that had been lost to the cataclysm. The 2 boys, with their dark secret, were assigned to Alain's lab. To Renee's great frustration, Alain did not believe in the accuracy or indeed the relevance of his world formula, and would divert none of his attention from his own focused pursuits into knowledge of ancient energy sources, like Deshret's primal constructs and Conrad's azosite. Renee instead reluctantly began a campaign of secretly recruiting sympathetic individuals from the mediocre researchers he was forced to resort to, while also researching Jacob's exciting new condition. Part of this research included clandestine trips to the body of Elinus, which had been cordoned off by the authorities. Inside, Renee concluded that the properties of vitality he had observed from objects of the abyss were present here in the hardening body of Elinus as well. And he and Jacob soon began to use the body of the beast, his flesh and blood, as nourishment for Jacob, who for some reason was immune to the deadly toxicity that all normal humans suffer when in contact with material from the abyss. Jacob instead continued to change and grow in strength. Renee decided his unique constitution was that of a neo-human, so far the only one of his kind. The 3 boys progressed in their research by leaps and bounds. Material from Mondstadt and Liyue was brought in to aid Renee in his study of the abyss and its many forms of preservation. And increasingly more dangerous and powerful ancient technologies were delivered to Alain as he approached a milestone in his research into Numa and Oisia annihilation reactions. While Marianne trained with her and Alain's adoptive father to become a Marecheso hunter, declining her brother's invitation to join the Institute. Alain went on to make a major breakthrough in the Pneumoisia reaction, paving the way for highly advanced clockwork mecha. His achievements were such that many of the adults of the Institute envied his genius, but not his research assistant, Carter Scherbius. The man was no match for Alain's mental prowess, but he neither envied or shunned the child. Indeed, he admired him and was one of his few friends at the Institute. Carter was often away on sick leave, as he suffered from a mysterious illness. But he would make time for the children whenever he could, even surprising them with a picnic one afternoon, which brought long-absent smiles to their faces. Poor Carter wished to make a meaningful contribution to the children's research endeavors, and he wanted all the best for them in their individual pursuits. But he never witnessed any further breakthroughs, as his malady reached a peak. Carter became terribly ill, spending many days in and out of consciousness. Everyone's primary objective became finding out what afflicted him and curing it. Assistance was even sought from Sumeru's advanced medical scholars, but to no avail. He was dying, and Jacob, in his desperation to save one of his closest friends, made a terrifying proposal to Renee. Try to save him in the same way that Renee had saved Jacob in those ruins in Sumeru, using the vitality of the abyss. Renee was intrigued but skeptical, and Carter would have to agree. They tried desperately to convince the man, showing him Jacob's abyss transformation, even explaining how success in this endeavor would prove to be a method of human transcendence, leading to salvation from the apocalypse. But Carter was adamantly against it. Yet, when he eventually fell into a coma, they tried anyway, with disastrous results. Carter Scherbius did not die per se. He was grotesquely malformed, preserved as a monstrosity after terrible tissue collapse. Jacob was devastated, bursting into tears whenever the amorphous body of his once friend would scream or perhaps try to speak. It isn't made clear by Renee's journal entries what exactly the experiment did to Carter's body, but at one point, Renee attempted to find the man's vocal cords amidst his confusing body and cut them out to stop the torturous sounds, only for them to grow back in a few days. The children's friendship largely fell apart at this tragic turn of events. From this point forward, Alan and Marianne would walk a different, eventually opposing path to that of Jacob and Renee. Alan especially wanted nothing more to do with them. He turned his focus back to his research into clockwork mecha, eventually creating the astounding prototype 4AC V07, codenamed Seymour, a clockwork dog equipped with cutting-edge AI technology that even now in present-day Fontaine still cannot be re-engineered. The guard dog's duty was to accompany and protect his sister Marianne, the single most precious thing in the world to Alan, while she secretly worked for the Maréchaux hunters. Later on, Alan was recruited by the hunters as well. This would turn out to be the beginning of the end. Instead of being dissuaded by the terrible outcome of that experiment, Renee and Jacob, on the other hand, continued and intensified their secret recruitment of sympathizers to his cause, using all sorts of chicanery and performances to sell their narrative. And as the society grew, little by little, his plans evolved and changed, taking on an interesting new direction, although the ultimate goal remained the same. This noble cause attracted financially gifted individuals who pledged coin and time to help realize Renee's aims. Some of this funding and manpower was used to search for 4 mysterious locations wherein the mystical materials to create a physical representation of reason could be found. The newly refined ritual to claim and separate one's will from the body would require this item of reason. And once it was forged, it was called the Holy Blade of Narzissenkreuz. While exploring to find these special items, another discovery was made. That of the visionary slates that depicted the prophesied flood that would destroy Fontaine. Renee's confidence in the accuracy of his world formula was fortified even further, and he also learned the secret of Fontainian's connection to the primordial sea. He carefully had the first slate, arguably the most important one, hidden from the prying eyes of the Maréchaux and Neuvillette. And at the same time, he realized that the ritual to dissolve the wills of Fontainians would require not only the sword of reason, but also the water of a pure Oceanid, something that was almost impossible to obtain now. Nearly all Oceanids had left the nation of Hydro after the death of their Archon, and were lost or hidden away in self-exile across the world, except kind, simple Lyris. Lyris returned to Fontaine, unlike the others, and made her way back to the orphanage where she remained, waiting in confusion for everyone to return, not understanding that no one could return to the sunken remains of the Institute, nor could she comprehend that times had irrevocably changed. She simply swam in a sad, persistent circle, asking herself why no one would come back, and waiting patiently for them to do so. Renee realized the opportunity that Lyris presented, and he and Jacob began to work on convincing her to join the Order. But before Renee was able to fully work his deception, Marianne and Seymour also visited her. Taking pity on her sad form, Marianne told her a story of hope. It was one of the few things Lyris could understand. In the story, Lyris was again the fair, noble princess. The children were still her loyal knights who would save her from the evil dragon, and everyone was still safe at the Institute. In this story, there was hope for the future. There was the possibility for things to turn out okay, and for everyone to go home safely. Lyris did not understand the metaphors that Marianne had infused the story with, but it gave her comfort, and it would eventually give rise to a new dream in which everyone existed as they had in the past, and she could be happy in the pages of the story. But Renee eventually did gain Lyris's dubious cooperation, dubbing her the Red Empress, and she was going to be used in tandem with the Holy Blade to dissolve the wills of the members of the Order. But the more progress the Order made, the closer the authorities came to shutting them down. There was no longer time to waste. As any leader should, Renee took the initiative and underwent the terrifying procedure first. It did not go according to plan. The vessel to contain the newly liberated will did not work. Renee was left with a disembodied will with no flesh to act, and Jacob was left scrambling to save his last and dearest friend. First, he had to ensure that word of this failure did not reach the members of the society. Should their fickle congregation find out that Renee was indisposed, the Order would collapse. Jacob repeatedly reassured them that the Master was fine. Some members took it upon themselves to perform divinations to ascertain if he was indeed safely resting in the newly completed Tower of Gestalt. And these readings implied that Renee was indeed present, that Jacob was telling the truth. But some of them were not so easily convinced. Jacob was informed of the unrest, and the members in question allegedly quit. The influx of new test subjects was instrumental in solving the problem of Renee's condition. Jacob extracted more and more wills. Lyris grew weaker. He experimented with the kind of vessel that could successfully hold a will, and his attempts, though they repeatedly failed, led to true progress. Eventually, he made a breakthrough and utilized the remains of their old friend, the product of that first unfortunate experiment with Carter, to finally stabilize a body for Renee's consciousness. Jacob named him Narzissenkreuz. The leftovers of those unruly members who had proven so useful were preserved with the intention of further experimentation into perhaps grafting them onto Hilichurls. Now the Master Narzissenkreuz, whole and strong, was ready to collect and absorb wills and egos in earnest. He was unburdened by the knowledge of his previous failure because of Jacob's considerate erasure of it from his memory. The plan could move forward. The goal being to both safeguard Fontainian souls in the primordial sea with the Master, and collect and cultivate a will of his own that would rival that of a primordial human, one whose will could recreate the world after its destruction. And yet, despite the meticulously laid plans, the opposition of the hunters could not be ignored. It all culminated in a fateful battle inside the remains of Elinas. Former friends met in that place and were pitted against each other. Not everyone left. After a massive battle, an explosion of unknown origin rang out inside the beast, and many people died. Seymour, Marianne's trusted companion, was severely damaged, and the young lady herself was killed, and under mysterious circumstances was absorbed by Lyris. Alan, the White Cavalier of Protection, fought against Renee himself, and the Master fell into the primordial sea, along with the cherished pocket watch Alan had given him as a gift between new friends during their days at the orphanage. The Narzissenkreuz order was dealt a mortal blow. But so was Alan, who never again believed in anything but his machines. The newly created Oceanid, Marianne, who was a blend of the consciousnesses of both Lyris and Alan's sister, returned to the Institute once more, where the two of them created a powerful illusion of safety amongst childhood memories. Where the Princess Lyris was saved by the knights, Jack and Nay and Al, and lovely tea parties could still be held out in the courtyard filled with flowers. Everyone could be just like in the story Marianne had told sad, lonely Lyris before everything had gone so wrong. Perhaps theirs became the strongest will of all, because to oversee this new world, the two wills created a brand new life, and a new Oceanid was born, Anne. Jacob, the only remaining member of the Order, tried to hold on to the ideals of the society, and the doomsday clock continued to tick onwards, until Focalor's brilliant strategy enabled the Traveler to defeat the all-devouring narwhal, changing the course of history. Perhaps had those two boys who lost their parents in the siege of Poisson had more faith in their archons and Neuvillette like Alan did, all that heartache and tragedy could have been avoided. Jacob was eventually killed after his supernaturally long life, crushed in an ignoble defeat by the hands of the doomsday clock he so vociferously believed in. And the sword of reason, wielded by that outlander, effectively separated Narzissenkreuz from the primordial sea, and he became little old Renee again. It was time to wake up from the dream. The story now was over, and the world had still been saved. Marianne and Lyris did get their happy ending after all, and the golden-haired Traveler, arguably the realest thing in this world, would go on to rewrite the future yet again. To everyone who stayed till the end, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed. And if any of you especially enjoyed and would like to see this channel continue on, perhaps you may consider granting me a super thanks. Supers are YouTube's way of letting content creators and fans work together to reach a goal, and my goal is a new and better laptop. Unfortunately, this one is on its last legs, and it's been a struggle to create quality content with it. But if I were to raise enough funds to get a better one, exciting new projects will suddenly become possible. I'm talking about a brand new series titled the Tevat Storyline Recap, which will be the most comprehensive and understandable one-stop for understanding the overarching story of Genshin Impact. New or returning players and others who may be interested in diving into the lore of the game but are daunted by its scope and delivery will have to look no further. Work has already begun, but I need your help. Thanks again for all your support, and I'll see you in the next one.